I don't even know how to have good conversations. Welcome back to Reddit Social Skills. Today's question comes from JP Made Me Do It, and his question follows: honestly, I have the social skills of a brick and can rarely have decent conversations without them dying off really fast. How do I get better at it? This is pretty similar to some other videos that I've done, but because I'm answering your question, I'm gonna make it specific to you. First of all, you obviously have a sense of humor. You said you have the social skills of a brick. I giggled. It's a good one. All right, so you're not completely hopeless because you made me laugh. If you can't have good conversations and you feel like they just die off because your social skills aren't good enough, your standards are set too high. This is very similar to another video I just did, but your standards for what is good enough to spark a conversation or continue a conversation are too high. You think in your mind that you aren't good enough to talk about whatever's on your mind, whatever's naturally in your heart. You think you aren't good enough. This is the underlying problem, much deeper and more important to look at than the, proposed question of how to deal with struggling conversations. So really what you should look at is, why don't you think you're good enough? Look at that. And usually when people have that thing in their heads, and we all struggle with it to some degree, it's a result of not living up to your own values, probably. So if you feel that whatever is on your mind and in your heart isn't good enough to contribute to a conversation, that's probably because in your head you think you're not good enough as you are. You believe that there's something wrong with you, or that you're lower or lesser than other people, and that's why you don't contribute whatever's on your mind. Because let's be honest, we're thinking all the time. It's not like when someone is talking to you or you talk to them and it fizzles out, it's not like you don't have anything in your head. It's that all the stuff that's in your head you don't think is good enough to say. You think that you have to hide that stuff and talk about something else. That's what's going on. You don't believe you're enough. That's the issue, not the conversation. So, look, as far as how to believe you're enough, I recommend figuring out where you're not meeting your own values. What are you disappointed about yourself for? Like, common things that I get disappointed about myself for, as examples, are if I stop going to the gym. If I stop going to the gym, I feel like shit. I feel bad about myself. I feel like a loser. I feel small. I feel weak. I feel soft. I feel like a little bitch. If I don't do any work for a couple of days, like if I should be working and I just don't, if I just ignore it, I feel like shit. My self-esteem goes down. If I isolate myself for too long, if I don't interact with people regularly enough, I start to isolate myself, and then I start to feel like shit as well. Okay, so these are some things that some of my values, for example, that if I don't do them, if I'm not in the gym, if I'm not working, if I'm not interacting with people and socializing, I feel like shit. I'm not meeting my own values, and my self-esteem goes down. I'm less likely to interact with people. I'm less likely to contribute my thoughts or ideas. I'm more in my head. I'm more insecure. I'm more self-conscious in a negative way. Those are some examples. So you got to figure out, what are you disappointed in yourself for? Because chances are, if you don't feel good enough, you're not living up to your own values. So maybe you haven't clarified what those are yet, but you might know. And if you start to meet those values just a little bit more every day, like if you take the workout example, if you just did like 5 push-ups tomorrow, and then 10 push-ups the next day, and then like 15 the next day, like even little baby steps like that, your self-esteem would go up. And the more you meet your own value, the more comfortable and confident you are to share what you feel and express yourself. So your standards are too high for what you think you can say to keep a conversation going, because your self-esteem is so low. You don't believe you're good enough, most likely because you're not meeting your own values. So I suggest you figure out what your values are and put together a plan that moves you closer to meeting those values. Like put together a workout plan if that's one of your values, or whatever the case. And look, beyond that, those are really the foundational things you should do. As far as some practical advice, start to just talk about whatever's going on with you. If you're insecure, if you're feeling anxious that day, if you're feeling weird, if you're feeling awkward, if you're feeling great, talk about anything. It's all good. Everyone can relate to pretty much any emotion that you might feel. So you don't have to hide certain vulnerable emotions. In fact, bringing them up and expressing them can make you closer to other people. Being vulnerable and expressing the things that you might be scared of or might usually want to hide for fear of protecting your own ego, those things are usually the most likely topics to actually spark a real deep connection. So don't feel like you can't talk about that. If you're in conversation, you could literally just bring up, if this conversation starts to fizzle and you're like, uh-oh, conversation's fizzling, here it goes, it's happening again, you could say that. Just say that, because that's what's on your head. It's okay. Everything that you think about or that you feel is okay. It's not bad. None of it's bad. It's all good. And you can express all of it. All right? So you could just say, you could say out loud, here we go, awkward silence. How long can we last? Or you could say, it's so weird, but I always have this point, like a couple of 2 or 3 minutes in when I meet someone new, where I have this awkward silence and I don't know what to say. Have you ever felt that way? I mean, you could just say that. You could say what you told us here on Reddit. Just own up to the truth. You don't have to be super cool or anything. Okay, it's a misconception. You're actually cooler in other people's eyes if you're able to own and admit to your insecurities, vulnerabilities, and the truth of what you're feeling. Okay? So I'm gonna leave it there for now. I hope that was helpful. If you enjoyed it, hit the thumbs up button, please. And of course, leave me a comment if you feel like it. I love the feedback. If you enjoyed this type of video as well, you want more content like this, hit the subscribe. I do appreciate that, but only if it's for you. You know, this channel is definitely not for everyone, but if this is the kind of thing you're into, subscribe, hit the bell, and stick around. All right, I appreciate you for spending your time here with me today. Thanks again. Alexander Leslie Walton signing out. Later.